Hello there. Welcome to Just the Dis. We talk about Blu-rays here. My name's Brian. And I don't have a full round of titles for Kino for the month of March, but I do have a few that I'd like to highlight for you, stuff that's come out this month. One of them is a Cohen Media title. And let me just get right into this. I'll start with this here, which is Fast Charlie, the Moonbeam Rider from 1979. And this is one I'd never even heard of, honestly, before this release. As you can see, it stars David Carradine and Brenda Vaccaro. The cult cast continues, though, with folks like L.Q. Jones, R.G. Armstrong, Terry Kaiser. Of course, he is Bernie from Weekend at Bernie's. So it's a pretty cool cast, and it's sort of it's about a World War I deserter that competes in the first long distance motorcycle race, and that's Carradine. And so it becomes kind of a sports movie in a way, but it opens in a really cool way with Carradine rolling into this little town, and he has his motorcycle, and he sets up this thing. It's kind of a con wherein he, tells the people in the bar that he needs $100 to go. I can't remember if it's like pay the mortgage on the family farm or some sob story, basically. And you're like, oh, that's so sweet. And they're like, well, we wish we could help you, but nobody has the money to help you that much anyway. And he's like, well, hey, what if and he's like, never mind. It's a silly idea. And they're like, what? And he's like, what if I raffled off my motorcycle? And everybody puts in $5 and you get a chance to win my motorcycle. And they're like, oh, that's a cool idea. So he gets 20 people. He gets more than $100 together for this raffles off the bike, and then, takes the money and walks out of town. And then we see him later running into the guy who won the bike is obviously in on it with him and gets a percentage of I think he must have got more than $100. But he gives him some of the money, and he gets his bike back, and then obviously goes to the next town, et cetera, et cetera. But yeah, it's an interesting setup, and there's a great sort of, bit where he finds his old buddy L.Q. Jones, and L.Q. Jones obviously has a beef with him because he starts shooting at him, and he's his mechanic or something. But it's a cool, race movie. Noble Willingham's also in it. He's a character actor you'll totally recognize. There's a bunch of folks that I recognized in it. So anyway, it's a neat movie, and one that I hadn't heard of at all. And so it's getting a nice widescreen transfer here. It has a commentary from Eddie Von Muller, which is good. Gives you some context and stuff, and I enjoyed that track. So that is Fast Charlie from 1979. Okay, next up we have... this one here is called Zoot Suit, and this one is from 1981, directed by Luis Valdez, and this is a pretty cool cult. I mean, it is a cult thing in a way, but it's a neat and beautifully designed musical. And I'll just read the back so you can get a sense of it, but it says, part fascinating, part dazzling fiction, part fascinating fact, part dazzling fiction. Zoot Suit is Louis Valdez's, he's directed La Bamba, blistering film adaptation of his own critically acclaimed stage drama based on the Zoot Suit riots that rocked the 1940s Los Angeles, when barrio leader Henry Reyna, Daniel Valdez, the China Syndrome, and a group of his friends are unjustly convicted and on circumstantial evidence and sent to San Quentin. Activist lawyers Alice Bloomfield and George Shearer fight the blatant racially motivated miscarriage of justice to win Henry and his friends their freedom. Featuring Edward James Olmos, he's sort of a very prominent one of the main roles in it, in the role of the mythical Pachuco that catapulted him to stardom. Yeah, this is a big jumping off point for him. Is a scorchingly searing and seductively provocative work that skillfully blends action, drama, romance, and music. Zoot Suit features a rousing score by the film's star Daniel Valdez and beautiful cinematography by David Myers, who shot THX 1138. Very cool. So this is interesting because it's a beautiful musical, but what's neat is that they do it all on stage. They establish that the story is taking place in an auditorium and that we are the audience watching the musical on stage. But in the midst of that, the production design is so lavish and gorgeous and beautiful that it just adds this other sort of meta level to everything. You know, it's just a really neat device. It makes the film quite memorable in that way. And yeah, just a really important film that it's nice to see. I think it had gotten a Blu-ray release from, I want to say Universal. Yeah. But this is a nice slipcover release. You have some alternate artwork on the inside. And it has a really nice commentary from filmmaker, film historian Daniel Kramer. And he is a huge fan of this movie. And, you know, obviously that's something they often get when Kino gets somebody to do a commentary, is a big fan. But he's like a super fan of this movie. And so he has lots of details and lots of insights about the film itself and stuff I was never aware of, as this is a film that I'm only loosely familiar with. I remember when I worked at the video store in college, there was a class that required this as part of their curriculum. So I remember a lot of people renting it over and over and over. And I don't know if I got a chance to see it back then. So I was really happy to see it in this nice Blu-ray now. You also have an interview with writer-director Louis Valdez. So a good little special edition, includes some features that weren't part of the previous Blu-ray release, and well worth your time if you're a fan of this kind of stuff. Next up, we have another musical, Irving Berlin's Blue Skies, starring, as you can see, Bing Crosby, Fred Astaire, and Joan Caulfield. And now this one I always remember as, and was excited that it was getting a release because of this, one of the influences that Scorsese called out specifically for New York, New York. Now, he talks about like those dark Hollywood musicals towards the back end. I mean, although this is 1946, so it's not necessarily the back of the Hollywood musical when they were running out, but they did do some darker musicals then, stuff that wasn't all happy, or maybe the musical numbers were happy, but they were sort of juxtapositioned against a sad story. And this one is Jed Potter, played by Fred Astaire, is sort of looking back on a love triangle conducted over a course of years and between musical numbers. Jed loves a showgirl, Mary, and that's played by Joan Caulfield, who loves a compulsive nightclub owner, played by Bing Crosby. His name is Johnny Adams. And he can't stay committed to anything in life for very long. And yeah, so it's kind of a sad story, ultimately. It's directed by Stuart Heisler, who I think Scorsese is a big fan of as a director in general. But it's neat to see Astaire. He's not fully likable in this. Like, he's kind of skeevy a little bit. We see him sort of hitting on some women in his... he's in a sort of a traveling musical number group, stage performance thing. And he's sort of hitting on some women in it, and he doesn't seem totally like the greatest guy, but he's still Fred Astaire, so he's very charming, and the musical numbers are great as usual. His dancing is great, and seeing him and Bing Crosby together is really neat. This is a new 2K master and remastered audio, and it says Screen Legends and Holiday Inn co-star Bing Crosby and Fred Astaire reunite for another dazzling Irving Berlin musical spectacular. Jed Potter and singer nightclub owner Johnny are both in love with songstress Mary O'Hara. She marries Johnny, and his passion for buying and selling nightclubs drives them apart, so Jed steps in, hoping to win Mary's heart, until fate intervenes and changes the lives of all three. Wonderfully directed by the versatile Stuart Heisler. They say featuring 30, that's right, 30 Irving Berlin songs, including the showstopper Putting on the Ritz. Blue Sky remains one of the all-time great musicals. So yeah, this does have Putting on the Ritz, and that's an incredible number. But yeah, I forgot it had 30 Berlin songs in it. That's pretty great. So it's very much a jukebox musical, if you will. It has a really nice commentary track from film critic and author Simon Abrams, who I'm a big fan of. And I've only heard, I know he's done a handful of commentaries, maybe more, but every one that I've heard I've enjoyed. I think he's a really solid commentator and obviously a big fan of this kind of movie, so he does a good job. So that's Blue Skies, looking real good. Next up we have from Cohen Media, Hester Street. Now, this is interesting because this has already come out on Blu-ray from, I think, Scorpion, but this is a new remaster. I want to say a new 4K restoration of this American classic. This is directed by the great Joan Micklin Silver, one of my favorite directors. She did several movies that I like, including Crossing Delancey, and she did Chilly Scenes of Winter, which is one of my all-time top favorite movies ever made. Great performance by John Hurt and Mary Beth Hurt. And yeah, it's only gotten a Twilight Time Blu-ray, which is out of print. So I really hope at some point somebody picks it up and puts it out again so people can see it, because it is tricky to see. It was tricky to see for a long time. Then the Blu-ray came out. Now it's tricky to see again. Anyway, I love Joan Micklin Silver. This is one of her masterworks. It's about a Russian emigre who prides himself on the way he's sort of molded himself into a real American in the USA. Though the world he lives in is New York's Lower East Side in the 19th century, it's almost exclusively populated by other Jewish immigrants. When his wife finally arrives in the new world, however, she has a lot of assimilating to do, and his wife is played by, of course, Carol Kane, who is incredible in this movie. And it's really her movie in a lot of ways. So we get to see, like, she's a very strong-willed woman, and there are some difficulties with a character like that in this time, in this place, but she really is impressive in the way that she makes her mark and finds her way. I won't say too much more about it because it's really a nice movie to experience, but it's really, really well done, and this Blu-ray looks fantastic. This is the second Joan Micklin Silver Blu-ray from Cohen Media. They also put out one movie I forgot to mention, which I also love, called Between the Lines, which is about a counterculture newspaper in Boston, I want to say, with an incredible cast that I absolutely adore. That film is great. Highly recommend that Blu-ray. If you don't have it, you should absolutely pick it up. But this is another great Joan Micklin Silver Blu-ray from Cohen. Hats off to them. And it has some really, really nice features too. We have 2 new interviews with Joan Micklin Silver, and both are great. She has since passed away, so it's very sad to have lost her, but we do have some great interviews with her here, giving her insights into how she made the film and the difficulties she faced, and she's just a really, really cool lady, and I'm a big fan of hearing her speak about filmmaking. There's an archival audio commentary with her and producer Raphael Silver, which is great. Archival interviews with key cast and crew members. Original opening sequence and outtakes with audio commentary by Daniel Kramer, author on the upcoming book about Joan Micklin Silver, which is great. I can't wait to check out that book. But this is a really nice disc and a really good movie from a director that I like very much, Hester Street from Cohen Media. Then we have Now and Forever, directed by Henry Hathaway, who's a really solid workman director from the classic Hollywood period. This one stars Gary Cooper, Shirley Temple, Carol Lombard, a nice trio. And it's sort of about a young, freewheeling wanderer, played by Gary Cooper, and his beautiful wife, Toni, who is Carol Lombard. They are at odds over sort of their lifestyle, and Jerry can't accept responsibility, kind of thing, but Toni yearns for a family and a settled life. Then the days rediscover Jerry's young... The two of them rediscover, quote-unquote, Jerry's young daughter, Penny, played by Shirley Temple, who has been living with some rich deceased wife's family. Penny appears to be just what they need at the moment they need it to mend their... He's sort of a swindler. He's got swindling ways, and lead the straight life. Despite the responsibility of having his family, Jerry is swayed by sort of corruptible influences, if you will, of a jewel thief. And it sort of puts the family at risk. And so there's some darker elements and stuff that, has a nice tension to it. But it's really great. Gary Cooper and Carol Lombard together is wonderful. And this is a neat role for Shirley Temple. It's not one of her song and dancey roles, and she's very good in this performance. So it's a good trio of actors. And this has an audio commentary from film historians Lee Gambin and costume historian Alyssa Rose, which I look forward to checking out. I'm sure that will be very good. This is from 1934. So Henry Hathaway film, Now and Forever. Then we have Backstreet. Now there's a lot of films called Backstreet. And I'm still waiting for one with Irene Dunne from the 30s. This is from 1941. And this is directed by Robert Stevenson. I'm sorry. The previous version is from 1932 and was remade a third time in 1961. So, and Kino's already put that version out. I want to say that has, I'm going to forget the cast of that one. But this has a really good cast, including Charles Boyer, Margaret Sullivan, Richard Carlson, Tim Holt. I'm a big Tim Holt fan. Tim Holt is great. And apparently this is about the novel, sort of, it's based on Fannie Hurst's novel, and Margaret Sullivan is a fashion designer in love with a married banker, and that's Charles Boyer. And there's sort of, star-crossed love, if you will. I'll read the back too. Brand new 2K Master, one of the most popular endearing romance novels of all time, has been brought to the silver screen several times over the years. The sublime 1941 adaptation stars the luminous Margaret Sullivan and the dashing Charles Boyer, and falling in love with a banker. A willful shop girl decides to become his backstreet woman upon learning he has since gotten married and had a son. This classic story of an illicit love affair from author Fannie Hurst, Imitation of Life, is brought to vivid life by director Robert Stevenson. Oh yeah, he directed Mary Poppins, crazy. With wonderful supporting roles by Richard Carlson, Frank McHugh, and Tim Holt, featuring Oscar-nominated score by Frank Skinner. Elegant tearjerker, packs a hefty dramatic punch. I think that's true of all the adaptations. It's a very tearjerkery kind of movie. This has an audio commentary, as I mentioned, and I look forward to checking it out. So that's Backstreet. Oh, sorry. This has I mentioned the commentary on Now and Forever. It's the same duo doing the commentary on this one. Lee Gambin and costume historian Alyssa Rose back for another track. Very cool. And then lastly, we have one from the Kino Classics line. This is Robert Siodmak, a great film noir director of The Spiral Staircase and The Killers, and I want to say he did Phantom Lady, maybe? This is called The Devil Strikes at Night. And this one is from 1957. It is in German with English subtitles, so it's one of latter works from Siodmak, but it says the murder of a Hamburg barmaid sees an open and shut case until a recently demobilized Nazi soldier reassigned to the police force suspects it's work of a serial killer. His efforts to bring the murderer to justice run afoul of the Reich, which fears the culprit as an Aryan, not the foreigner, gypsy, or Jew that they would prefer. Director Robert Siodmak, the greatest practitioner of Hollywood noir. Oh, Crisscross, that's another one. Yep, Phantom Lady. Returned to Germany in the 50s. I didn't even really know that he had done this, that this was something. I thought he came over from Germany, made noirs, and stayed in Hollywood, but apparently he went back to Germany in the 50s to finish his career. This was the most powerful film of those latter years, subtle yet scathing payback to the Nazis that chased him from his homeland. Based on the true story and murder of Bruno Ludke, Siodmak recreates a tense policier that's also a psychological drama exploring how some of those who did not flee the Reich struggled to maintain their integrity and morality in the face of overwhelming corruption and evil. That's a little summary by Eddie Muller, who I love to quote and hear him talk about noir. This has a commentary by Imogen Sarah Smith, one of the other crackerjack noir folks. She's done a lot of work with Criterion, and she is just stupendous in her knowledge of classic cinema and noir. So I know this track will be incredibly enlightening and wonderful. I look forward to checking that out as well. So that's all I got for this month for Kino. Just wanted to give you guys a little heads up on the availability of some of these, and hopefully there's something here that you might dig. So thank you very much for watching, and I will talk to you soon. Bye-bye.